This week, let me open with a question. What do you do when your reputation is destroyed? How do you begin to build up trust again when you are only known for failure? Is victory enough? How can you be sure that you are seen for what you do and not constantly surrounded by your past? How can Ambrose Burnside save his career? But before we get to him, we have other events that demand attention. Charleston remains under siege, with not much movement happening on the land this week. Instead, the bombardment continues. The land-based cannons are joined by the floating heavy guns of the U.S. Navy Rear Admiral John A. Dahlgren, who moves in with his fleet, which last saw action at the failed bombardment of Fort Sumter under a different commander. This time, the ships are far more successful, causing confusion among the Confederate defenders. Next, we move far west to the action of Major General James Blunt and his Federal Army of the Frontier. General Blunt was last seen winning the critical Battle of Honey Springs in Indian Territory. He has spent the last month moving further south, winning minor victories and increasing support for Lincoln's cause among the native tribes there. As he moves, he leaves his flanks open to the rebel forces in Arkansas, who hold the critical Fort Smith. This will not do, so the Army of the Frontier begins its march towards the fortification. On the 31st, the men of Blunt are stopped by Brigadier General William L. Cabell and the Confederate force. They skirmish southwest of Fort Smith. Cabell, outnumbered, having only a brigade, withdrew with his supply wagons. Next day, General Blunt captures Fort Smith, but being far from his supply train, wants Cabell's wagons and dispatches Colonel William F. Cloud with 1,500 cavalry and artillery to bring back those wagons. The Confederates, wishing to give their slow-moving supply wagons more time, decide to hold at the Devil's Backbone, an awe-inspiring name for a mountain ridge. Cabell, their leader, hopes to quickly ambush his pursuers, raise his men's morale, and escape with his supplies. Quite big goals for his current situation. He deploys his favorite cavalry regiment on the main road, from which Colonel Cloud will surely arrive, and the rest of his forces on the hillside above it. Besides his elite unit, the rest of his men are unreliable, being conscripts and deserters. The forward guard of Cloud's men march until they are struck by carbon fire. They rush back to their commander, who dismounts his men and limbers his heavy guns. The Union then advances up the hill, causing the retreat of many of the rebel regiments before even firing a shot. Those remaining Confederate companies begin a long-range duel with the men of Cloud. For 3 hours, both sides fire almost blindly at each other and have their heavy guns try to break the other line until Cloud orders an advance. Cabell withdraws. The Union takes the pass, losing 16 men to the Confederate 65. Fort Smith is safe from the rebels, and the Union has a beachhead in the Arkansas River Valley. Next is an election, with a Republican taking the governorship of California, beating out the Democratic nominee and keeping the state's executive branch in the hands of the combined Unionist Party. Finally, we get to General Burnside and his attempt at redemption. He used to control the Army of the Potomac. Then, after a terrifying defeat at Fredericksburg and the terrible attempt of the Mud March, he was removed from command and given the Army of the Ohio. Pretty nice consolation prize. Though, if you think this is the Army of the Ohio that fought with Grant at Shiloh or repulsed Bragg at Perryville, you are wrong. That Army of the Ohio became General Rosecrans' Army of the Cumberland. This Army of the Ohio is the second one. It's made up of 2 corps, the 9th Corps and the 23rd Corps. But wait, isn't the 9th Corps with Grant at Vicksburg? Well, yes it is. Or, yes it was. During the Vicksburg campaign, the 9th Corps was taken from General Burnside and sent to Grant. It has since been sent back and is on the way to the 23rd Corps, best to rest from all the diseases it carries. It seems that old Burnside is out of luck, being forced to stop minor Confederate raids, which he did with the capture of General John Hunt Morgan, and give out troops when needed. Or he can take his corps and advance against the vital city of Knoxville, its valuable connection on the East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad. But surely there must be many defenders of Knoxville. So what, General Burnside thinks? He has an army. They will fight and win, as armies do. Luckily for Ambrose, his opponent, Major General Simon Buckner, is in the middle of withdrawing from Knoxville and the Cumberland Gap to reinforce General Braxton Bragg, who's facing off against General Rosecrans. The The Confederate forces left behind are 2 brigades in the Cumberland Gap under Brigadier General John W. Fraser with only 2,300 men. So on September 2nd, the 23rd Corps sent in a cavalry brigade to reconnaissance of Knoxville, Tennessee, and ended up occupying it without a fight. On the 3rd, the rest of the Army of the Ohio sets up camp in their primary target. The people rush to the streets and warmly welcome the Union Army. But General Burnside is not happy. No one cares about his taking of Knoxville. The only thing on people's minds is the standoff between Rosecrans and Bragg. The eyes of the nation are at Chattanooga, where it seems a decisive battle will be had. Burnside has lost his chance to win everything back because the victory was, what, too easy? Then there are Sickles. He has continued to rest and rejuvenate. His party is taking on the role of depopulating the area of the local deer. He sends the meat to Delmonico, the famous chef of New York. That's about it for him. That's where the week ends, with the movement of armies towards a later target on a grand level, and you winning a significant victory without a major battle. There is no way of describing the taking of Knoxville that doesn't fall under the category of anticlimactic. But that's all for the better, a victory without casualties. The consolidation of rebel armies has led numerous sectors to open to the more spread out federal troops. The question now is, can the men of Lincoln exploit it? Hello, it's the entire Score week by week team here. As you can tell, it's my first week in a new set. I've moved out of my mom's basement into a overall pretty crammed room. I know there's been a lot of changes to the video. If you have any problems, please tell me, though I would appreciate kindness, as it's been quite a bit. Once again, the normal, if you watched the video, please like it, please share it around, and please subscribe if you haven't yet. And of course, I will see you next week.